Glory to your house, the house of Apollo, where the echoes of legends are all we follow. Turn it up, feast your eyes, feel the fever ignite. Glory to your house.
So before we get started, here's the headline. According to Breitbart, U.S. video game console sales hit historic lows in November, making this the weakest November in decades. According to industry sales tracking data from Circana/NPD, the trade and business outlet reported a sharp year-over-year decline in both unit sales and, total hardware spending. High prices, weak must-haves, and household budgetary pressures crushed what is normally the industry's strongest sales month. In other words, if you saw mommy kissing Santa, I've got some bad news. Santa may have still gotten the cookies, but Nintendo don't get your hopes up. You're still not getting a console. No one is. All right. Yes, I'm very proud of myself, and I'm sorry you're going to have to revel in my absolute joy of leveraging such a awful dad joke. But I love puns as much as I love the old school. Genesis does Nintendo commercials, so just suck it up and take this ride with me. As I was saying, November console sales didn't just dip, they collapsed. And they collapsed in the month that's supposed to save the industry's fiscal year. Oof. Black Friday, holiday bundles, doorbuster deals, they failed. They failed completely. They failed bigly. High prices, an endless stream of AAA debacles, and I'm being very polite when I say that. Well, that ultimately meant fewer games that were must-haves. And with that said, consoles, they didn't lose their relevance, they lost their justification. Americans didn't fall out of love with gaming. Nope, they stopped trying to justify a $500 to $600 box underneath their TV. Now look, before anybody says, nothing like this has ever happened before, 80s and 90s kids, we lived through this. As a matter of fact, between 1993 and 1996, the console market didn't crash, but it did freeze. And not because people hated the games, but because the consoles, well, they became too expensive, entirely too scarce, and way out of lockstep with what the customers were looking for. Now, I'm going to be specific because I don't want you to think I'm making an abstract statement. I'm talking real systems that ultimately wound up breaking the trust of the consumer. The Atari Jaguar, well, that sold the future. It delivered confusion. It delivered exorbitantly high prices, and ultimately did not deliver a reason to show up. The Virtual Boy. Expensive, uncomfortable, gimmicky. It didn't just fail. It gave you migraines. The Sega Saturn, well, it launched early. It launched very expensive, and it was really hard to find. If you were lucky, you could play that awesome Power Rangers game. If you were able to rent a Saturn from Blockbuster. What was the other? There was another game. I think it was like a boxing game that was also pretty cool. But either which way, the retailers ultimately didn't even know how to market the Saturn. There was mass confusion, and ultimately the customers walked away from it. These systems and their failures, it didn't kill gaming. Instead, it did teach the consumer to wait, to sit back, chill out, and see what's going to happen in the future. And ultimately, that chill out mentality, well, it caused the market to freeze. Now, the great console freeze only thawed for one reason. That reason is competition. By the late 90s, there are only really two survivors left. It's the Nintendo 64 and it's the Sony PlayStation. And it's not because of the hype, it's not because of the specs, it's because they were forced to compete on price, on supply, and on making sure they were giving people a clear reason to buy these systems again. The rivalry ultimately restored confidence and restored excitement. And with that confidence restored, well, it restarted the spending. And ultimately, that spending, well, it thawed the big freeze, and it taught everybody a very valuable lesson. Without excitement, there is no urgency. And without urgency, there's no reason to spend. So now we move to today. frankly, the consoles, if you're getting a consoles, there, the Nintendo Switch is over $400 system compared to its predecessor. Sony and Microsoft, they're looking to smash you for $500 to $600, and in some cases for systems that are years old. It's an absurdity. So really, when you break this down, we're talking about not purchasing a toy. We're talking about making a car payment. And here's what the consumer instinctively feels. And it feels this because these prices, well, they rose together. And when prices move in lockstep, there's only really one way to read it. And the read isn't about innovation. It's about these companies being predatory. See, the generational leaps that we're supposed to be getting from our consoles, they're not exciting anymore because they're so incremental, they're insignificant. The innovation is delayed. I'm going to take that back. The innovation isn't delayed. It's straight up missing. Missing to the point that someone needs to call John Walsh to go find it. And now because the innovation is gone, the urgency disappears. Trust has eroded. And when you're going to be realistic about it, we're talking about a world where the average consumer has to look at their rent, they have to look at their mortgage, they look at their groceries, they look at the cost of their health insurance, all things that are going up. And guess what gets cut first? That's right, it's the luxury items. It's the things you can do without. And frankly, as much as you love gaming, as much as you love being a gamer, if you're an adult, you know that you can probably do without. So at the end of the day, Thomas Sowell, who we love on this channel, well, he's been warning about this for decades. And I'm going to paraphrase: when the producers of goods are insulated from the consumer choice, competition fades and neglect replaces innovation. So what we're seeing right now in this era of the mega consoles is that neglect has in fact replaced innovation, and we're not paying anymore. We're not paying for innovation. We're not paying for the future. Instead, the customer is being treated like a consumer, and the consumer is being charged to stay. Gamers aren't being sold progress. We're being charged for compliance. At the end of the day, a savvy customer, well, we all know the difference. We can see it coming a mile away. Console generations, well, they don't die from a lack of love. They die from price arrogance, from weak competition, from forgetting the customer when competition softens. The takeaway here is markets don't crash, they do go cold. Now, before Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft reformed the supergroup Band-Aid for some kind of first world, do they know it's Christmas? Yes, we do know it's Christmas. And no, sorry guys, we don't care. And we don't care because these systems are just too damn expensive, you jerks.
From the ink of the comics to the glow of the tube, every twist, every turn keeps us locked in the groove. TV's flashing neon, check the microphone. We're the speakers of subjects, the kings of the code. Raise the